All right, so today I'll be talking about Tempus. Tempus is a medical company which stores medical data to help personalize treatments in medicine. It was founded by Eric Lefkofsky in 2015. He's also the founder of Groupon, and this company is used primarily by physicians. And they have an AI called Tempus One, which is used to communicate this data to the physicians. The information that I found from the website, I gathered that it's a very private company. They only provide very vague data to the public. But the data that they did say, or information they did give, is that they have 3.5 million anonymous medical records in this database. And this is to help personalize and optimize treatments. And all the records are clinical and molecular data of patients. They ingest and organize clinical notes, lab reports, pathology images, and radiology scans, and these specific different types of medical records help show physicians better clinical context for each of the specific patient cases. Their specific goals that the website states is that they hope to keep physicians up to date by using this data and to help them make quicker and more accurate decisions when helping their patients' health. And the data that would hopefully help them would be by showing them sequence DNA and RNA that might be similar to the patients and similar medical cases as well. And their other goal is to help accelerate drug development to aid with these health issues. Tempus One, which is their voice automated device, is connected directly to the Tempus database, and it is a 1x1 inch cube, and this gives physicians access to specific patient information, even their genes, which could also include present day patients that they have. They can ask on their current conditions and everything. The website, however, does not address any biases or fail-safes for the AI or database, just generally any issues they don't list. When I went to look for third-party perspectives, I found that there was not many articles whatsoever on this company. However, the few that I did find said that Google invested in Tempus so that Tempus could store some of their patient data on the cloud. And that the Tempus One specifically, any questions that physicians would ask it, it would actually make the device smarter because it would collect data on the questions asked to it. The articles also talked about that it was likely that Tempus One would also collect data on the doctor to patient interactions, so the conversations that they were having, which is most likely like without knowledge of physicians or the patient happening. Some issues that an article did talk about were that the patient's probably not comfortable with their information being shared on this database, especially if it got into the wrong hands. Most cancer patients are not comfortable sharing their medical history with insurance companies because they could be biased against, and the insurance companies may not want to provide them with health insurance because of their history. Some issues with the data is that some digitalization of images and records could be bad. It's pictures or the scans of the records, and so false data could be put into the database, and that would just affect all of the whole thing, and that would be bad. And the biggest crutch of this whole system is that AI relies on algorithms and of historical data, and that makes this whole system useless against new diseases or short-lived ones such as COVID, because there's just not enough historical data to combat it. And it also is useless against rare diseases as well, since there's not a vast amount of data on those either. An article I found had an interview with Eric Lipkowski where he was talking about Tempus, and he was saying how Tempus like takes advantage of human genome sequencing and recording that data, and how the main aim of Tempus is to cure cancer. And that is because his wife had cancer and was treated, and it was treated without using very much data, and that alarmed them. So because of that, he created Tempus, and Tempus works with 25% of all cancer patients all over the world. So they work with a large amount of cancer treatment facilities worldwide. So because it collects so much cancer data, Lipkowski claims that Tempus gets rid of the biggest hurdle of cancer treatment, which is a lack of data and precise medicine. And he talks about what kind of data Tempus collects, which is mainly phenotypic and drug response data, which is who the patient is, the drugs the patient is taking, and the reaction the patient has to those drugs. And he doesn't claim that it collects any other data. And he is a great supporter of data as well, and that medicine without data would, like, many lives would be lost. I mean, not as good. So my thoughts on this company is that the idea of it behind it is very good, and I think more data behind medicine would be very useful and would probably further medical research and treatments. However, I think the actual company itself is quite suspicious. It has a very high value. I can't remember, stock market, or it was just a value, and the company has a lot of money that is just unknown where it comes from. And it is strange because its competitors who do also collect medical data has more data, but the company is valued less. So it's unclear where that value is coming from. And it's just automatically suspicious of how vague and private this company is, especially when it holds so much data on so many people. And it's like very private, but yet addresses no potential issues that it could have, such as like it's not transparent at all on who gets to see this data. It's just very vague by saying physicians. It doesn't address the potential of patient privacy and how, like, if there's contracts between patients and the company to share their data, if the patients know that their data is being shared, and security issues with the AI as well, where not only is the patient's privacy being invaded, but also the physicians of the AI constantly recording the physician's conversations and then constantly learning from it, and not simply just giving the physician's data when asked. And of course, AI, by the constant use of AI, it would potentially lessen the personal or human connection between doctor and patient, because the physician could potentially focus more on the data and see the patient more as a number rather than a person. Lastly, it's a very young company, so there's like really no like proof or statistics on this algorithm or all this data really doing anything. They just on the website really only list that they have so much data, but they don't list if this data actually does anything or helps. So I think that's like the biggest issue, honestly, for me. It's like, out of all of this, does it actually work? Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.